As we talk about markets this weekend, it's the land market that we'll put in focus with the help of our friend Ray Brownfield. His firm is Land Pro LLC. You're in Northern Illinois, Ray. Welcome back to join us.
Thank you.
You watch the nation, though. I know you've long been involved in the National Association of Farmland Managers, rural appraisers. What's happening in general terms across the country with land values?
You know, they have been pretty good, pretty robust with the income. However, they're all starting to see the lack of good commodity prices in the Delta area. The cotton market's really been hurt quite a bit. The rice market maybe not quite as bad. Of course, they grow corn and soybeans down there too, and that's all a competitive situation here globally, basically. In California, it seems like the nut crops still do quite well out there. Almonds just keep going higher and higher in the price per acre. I think they're 15, 20,000 acre maybe or greater. I don't do too much work in that anymore like I used to, but there's a high demand for almonds as a health food. And certainly the wine market still seems to do quite well in that area. Texas seems to be doing quite well in certain areas because they really got good cattle feeding down there. The cattle numbers are up, so the corn prices are way over the board, actually. And so those guys are doing pretty good in some of those areas. And then we get here in our Midwestern area, and we've seen some slippage, I suppose, in the market just because the corn and soybean prices are what they are. However, not as bad as you would think right now. So Florida, citrus industry, I think, is doing some major changes. They've had some serious disease problems down there, and so a lot of those grows continue to be pushed out and more developments going on in those areas, but big water issues down there as to how you keep them not contaminated. So there's issues in every area that we have to deal with.
Water supply issues, water availability, that's becoming a concern for some. Of course, now we've boosted our moisture levels of late in the Northwest and in California, but in those areas where water supplies have been severely restricted, is that being reflected in land values, downward pressure on land values?
It depends, because in California you have various kinds of water systems out there. You can have your own if you're really lucky. You got federal and you got state. And what I'm hearing is there's maybe some major work going to be done on bringing some of that water back out of the Sacramento area and getting it where it belongs, because there's a lot of overflow, just doesn't get to where it needs to get to. So there is work going on in that regard. But it really, you'd think it had more of a major impact on the land values out there, and probably some of it has, but for the most part, not as much as you would think.
In the grain-intensive areas in the heartland of the country, I've heard estimates that there could be retracement in that land price of maybe 20 to 25% from the peak that we saw, especially in the corn-intensive areas, soybean areas. Do you believe it could be that much?
It depends on what period of time we're going to measure that. I would say here in 2015, on the very, very, very high quality ground, maybe it's backed off 5%. On the ground of less quality, drainage problems, things like that, maybe 10 to 12%. But when you think about it, for 4 or 5 years in a row, we had an appreciation rate of 10 to 15, 20% per year. So even a retracement of 25% maybe in the next several years is still not a major loss when you look at where it all began.
You don't see the land market falling out of bed then?
I do not.
We want to talk with you a little bit about foreign investment in farmland. That always generates a little conversation. Usually the rumor mill is fed with that kind of talk. Ray Brownfield will be back in just a few minutes there. His firm Land Pro LLC will continue our discussion about the value of land in just a few minutes.